Hello and welcome to the Longford International College podcast, where today your host, Tom French, will be talking to former MBA student Karen Thorpe. She'll be telling us about her experiences here at the college and also about that transformational journey that she had since graduating. If you like, please like, comment and or share, and of course subscribe if you'd like to keep up to date with everything here at the college. It helps us greatly. Okay, without further ado, I'll hand you straight over to Tom and Karen.
Thorpe, thank you very much for coming in. I know you're a busy lady. Just a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, thanks a million for having me. Great to be here. So I'm Karen. I'm from Dublin. I recently set up an event management company called Kickoff Event Management. But previously, I worked in the sport industry for about 10 years, and I continue to do so with some of my clients. So it's a nice mix, enjoyable. I get to stay in sport, and then also work with a couple of different organisations like charities and things like that. So it's going well so far.
Very good, very good. So, growing up, were you into sport?
I was and I wasn't. So in school, like I would have played hockey and loved it. And when I was a lot younger, I have 3 brothers, and the local soccer teams and stuff like that wouldn't have really had girls' teams. So I ended up playing on my twin brother's team at one point. But would have been a little bit sporty. But after school, I didn't really stay involved in any major capacity. Did a bit of running and stuff like that, but I wouldn't have been involved in team sports, which is hilarious considering where I've ended up. But
yeah, because looking at your profile, and you work with the GPA. Mm-hmm, so how has somebody that never played sport got working or even interested in working with the GPA? How did that come about?
Completely roundabout way. So I suppose after school I ended up working in the likes of PayPal for a few years, went off to Australia, worked in a law firm, none related to sport whatsoever. Came back and worked for a software company as an executive assistant, and did that for a couple of years. And at one stage I was trying to get into the events team in that organisation. It was a big American company, and they were letting me do the work but weren't actually giving me the position on the team. So I threw my toys out of the pram and went looking for another job, and one came up as executive assistant to CEO of a sports organisation. Now, when I say I didn't know what sport it was, I didn't advertise what sport it was. And eventually went and got a couple of interviews, and about 3 interviews in, they said it's for the Gaelic Players Association. And I was like, oh, right, that's great. Never
What's
been
that?
to a GAA game in my life. But I knew I could do the job as executive assistant. So luckily I ended up getting employed. Started off as Desi Farrell's PA, actually about 10 years ago.
Very good.
And that's how I got involved in it, yeah.
And can you tell us what the GPA actually means? Because a lot of people listening here wouldn't have a clue.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I didn't really know myself. Obviously, I played sport a lot, and because I wasn't involved in Gaelic football or hurling, I was involved in soccer. We didn't have the GPA at that time, and it wasn't until I was maybe 10, 15 years ago that I got involved with the GA that obviously the GPA group came up. What exactly is the GPA?
So the GPA are the player union, as I said. So they have 4 pillars they operate under. So firstly, it's to represent the interest of all their members. Secondly, it's to protect their welfare. Thirdly, it's to support their development as people off the pitch. And fourthly, it's to advocate for equality of opportunity and recognition and investment of all of the members that they have.
County players.
County players.
Yeah, and originally when they set up, it was for male players. So I'm not sure if you know the way that the GAA association set up itself, but the GAA itself represents male players in hurling and inter-county football. Yeah. There's a separate association for the Camogie and a separate association for the LGFA. So when the GPA was founded, it worked directly with the GAA representing male players. So some of the supports that might be available are like education supports, mental health services, personal development. So if you want to do upskilling courses, because obviously all inter-county GAA players, they're amateur athletes, but they also have full-time jobs and sometimes would like to develop upskilling programs. So they work a lot. There's a few different pillars that they work under, and they'd be representation, diversity, equality and inclusion, a lot of different spaces like that, but essentially the service is available to players that are free of charge for the players to avail of. And as I said, it might be in terms of education, going back to college, getting scholarships for that or grants for that. And they support them off the pitch, essentially.
Yeah, because a lot of people wonder why the GA players put in the work that they actually do, and they don't really get anything out of it. And they are pretty much full-time. You know, I work with full-time athletes at the moment, and I work with the GA Galway hurlers, and they like if you're comparing like for like, the training there's pretty similar to the time and effort they both put in. Yeah. The difference between the Gaelic players is they go to work, or it might be teachers at work, and you just wonder why it's maybe because it's the passion, the county, the club, and why do you think they would?
That's exactly it, and a lot of it is pride, and pride for your county, and pride for your community. Being able to represent your county at the top level is a privilege, and a lot of them really enjoy it. So there's been studies done, they do about 38 hours a week in terms of training and games and everything like that, and they do it for the love of the game, essentially. Yeah, and I wouldn't say they don't get anything out of it, maybe not monetary value, but there's a lot
jobs, they tend to...
There's a lot of other things that fall out of it, but most of them do it for the love of the game and representing their county.
Yeah, and the beauty of the GA as well is that they get, as you said, free education in a lot of places, and a lot of places that are, example like Longford College here, you might have a course around, could cost 7-8K, and that might be brought down to like 1,000, 1,500. So there is a great opportunity as they're training to be learning at the same time. Yeah, whereas I'm not too sure on the soccer that I'm involved in that there is that scope as well to be getting that free education and player management. There's a little bit of it, but I don't think it's as popular as the GPA itself.
Well, I'd say the difference is because the GPA is an amateur sport, we would try to go after opportunities like that and see where collaborations are available. So one of the roles I had within the GPA was an education manager, and part of my job essentially was to go around and approach colleges and see if they'd be willing to partner on scholarships for players. So what that would look like is the likes of Longford College, for example, they might waive 50% of the fees for a course, and then the GPA would give them 50% towards the course. So essentially it's a free scholarship for a player. And that's in recognition of the contribution to the game, and that's why we'd partner with them. For the GPA, obviously the benefit of having these scholarships available to players is massive. And then for the colleges themselves, having the big names coming in and studying with your college is a benefit too. So it works really well for both. And you'd find with the likes of Longford College and a lot of the partners that the GPA have, they really want to give back to these players. And not only is it a nice to do, but it's great having the sports people in your organisation as well. So it works really well on both sides.
It does. And it was originally for male only.
It was, yeah.
And obviously the male were getting everything and all the support. And the ladies started talking out, the facilities, the gear they're getting, the benefits, and they're putting in the same time, the same work, but they just weren't getting the recognition. How did the ladies develop and get into that GPA, and what have the GPA done so far for the ladies to bring up that standard?
I have to say the GPA have been real thought leaders in this area, and they really felt like the female players deserve to get the same facilities and recognition as male players. As I said, when it was originally founded, they were recognised by the GA, and that was recognising male inter-county players as part of that kind of protocol agreement. So it was harder bringing in female players because it's actually two different associations that work with them. But what the GPA did was worked with a group of female athletes, GA players, that wanted to found a Women's Gaelic Players Association, so that's WGPA. And when that was founded, the GPA would have helped them set up and things like that. So that ran for a few years, and then the GPA worked with them to work towards potentially merging as one players association that represented the four different codes. And hurling, football, ladies football and camogie. So when the GPA ran this by their members in a vote in an AGM, it was unanimous. They all voted them in. For obvious reasons, it's the right thing to do. But also you have to remember the female players are sisters of these players.
That's true.
Girlfriends, wives, family members, people in their community. So the male players really stood behind. And I think that's one of the things that for any female sport to progress, you need to have male allies, 100%. And it worked really, really well. They've merged now, and the GPA are actually going another step further where they're campaigning for the GAA, camogie and ladies football to all merge as one association. So hopefully down the line that'll happen.
I've seen that over the last couple of months. There's been Galway. I live in Galway, and they put a proposal into the council to buy a piece of land near the Galway airport. I'm not sure it's a massive place, but they want to merge the football, the ladies football, the hurling, the camogie all in one. And I think there is a lot of funding for especially ladies now coming into the sport.
Absolutely.
So amalgamating both would obviously stand for obviously a better facilities, better training, better coaches, and spectators is the key to everything. So when the quality is good, the playing's good, the people tend
sponsorship
to
is good.
Sponsorship is good, tend to follow. Where do you see that ending up, and how long do you think, from your experience, have you?
So there's a couple of different pieces.
There's a lot of talk about it, but
there's a couple of different bits behind it. I personally think there is the difference between what some males might get compared to some females, but also varies widely from county to county.
Yeah.
Like there's different services available. There's centres of excellence in some counties where there's not in other ones. There's, training facilities and shower facilities and everything for some time. In some cases, it might just be for males or football or hurling or camogie or whatever the case is. It varies. But what the GPA try and do is bring in a charter, which is like a minimum standards that needs to be available across all counties. So that's a really good starting point. Yeah. And they're working on that every year.
And that's at the county level, not the club level?
At the county level, yeah. And that's to make sure that across the board there's a basic minimum standard and it's adhered to across all codes. So that's what they work on, and they really try and drive that on. I think eventually it will happen. I think there's no other way for it to go, to be honest with you, and there's no excuse for it not happening. So fingers crossed it'll be sooner rather than later, but it'll take time.
That's one thing I do like about the GPA, and when I was working in it, or the Gaelic hurling I was with, that the facilities have been excellent. Most of the places you go, especially at senior level, compared to the likes of the League of Ireland, and the standard of facilities is non-comparison to what is in the GA. Mm-hmm. Now, I know the League of Ireland are putting proposals in, there are new stands, new stadiums coming through, but I think they're Stone Age compared to where the GA has gone so far. How do you, I'm sure you've come across this comparison before, and what do you think drives that standard from the GPA or the Gaelic Association compared to the League of Ireland?
I think it's a lot of it comes back to sponsorships and popularity, and that's where the money comes from. And at the moment, over the last few years, there seems to be a lot of funding put into GAA, and whether that's big sponsors, and you've seen some organisations have partnered with kind of the ladies teams and stuff like that, so there's more money generated that way, so there's more money coming in. But also I think a lot of Irish philanthropists are getting involved because they might have a particular affiliation to a certain county or share that wealth with all other counties.
True.
I just think it's been more of a focus, and it's been more popular in recent years. GAA has even been shown over on Sky Sports, which has never really happened before, and it's just getting more traction and more attendance than soccer is. So I think there's more money coming in, and shoe ticket sales and everything like that as well. So
over the last 3 or 4 years, soccer has definitely increased in attendance. This year alone, the attendance has been higher than any other time. You have all these new managers coming in, the likes of Damien Duff, John Russell, our own managers, young. They've all been sort of nearly come through the training together, and the standard of coaching is definitely got a lot higher. The quality of football's got better, and the the crowds are coming, but again, Sligo Rovers, example, are the only club that aren't business owner owned. They're a supporter club. And I think for any business to grow, you need an organisation rather than just a club. So the GPA have an organisation that are helping in the background. Is what in the GPA itself, is there structure and setups where you go into the club and show them the structure, how to raise money, how to get money, or is it just all funded or?
No, yeah, that wouldn't be something that they focus on. They more focus on player development and supports off the pitch rather than progressing the club. So any of that kind of stuff will be done through county boards and funding that comes in through county boards. Yeah, so it's a little bit separate. They the GPA focus more on the player and the player off the pitch. So kind of what happens while you're playing to support your career off the pitch, and then when you're transitioning out of sport as well, what kind of sports are there available for you? But it wouldn't necessarily that's more the GAA's role,
and each county to their own.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's enough about the GPA. I did see that you are involved in snooker and billiards. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's a new string to the bow. So I've got involved. I'm a board member for Snooker and Billiards Ireland. So the reason I've never played snooker either, or GAA, but the reason I've got involved with those guys is just my experience in sport and working in sport. And I suppose what snooker is trying to do is revamp the game in Ireland. As we were chatting about before, growing up, there would have been a lot more snooker on TV that we would have watched.
Definitely. I think that was down to we only had 3 to 5 stations on TV, so we had nothing else to watch.
Might have been why, but we watched it anyway. But there was even a lot more snooker halls around the country. They've all kind of disappeared now, or at least greatly reduced. So what the new chairman of the board is trying to do is revamp snooker in Ireland and get that love back for snooker, try and get more younger people involved in snooker as well. So I'm working with them kind of on a junior game development plan, and then also kind of PR and comms around snooker, and just getting it kind of back in the news a little bit, promoting the people that are involved in it now. So there's a couple of young players that are up and coming and trying to get more people engaged in it. So the work that we're going to do will be working directly with clubs that are currently there, letting people know what clubs are available for them, because in some cases you might be living in a county and the nearest snooker hall isn't really within travelable distance if you're not driving because you're younger.
Is there many snooker halls in Ireland?
I don't know the exact figure of them, but no, they've gone down dramatically. So what they're trying to do now is get some funding, potentially from Sport Ireland, to get some more development into it. There's the main hub is up in Carlow, and that's getting some good traction at the minute, and they're going to try to get more people involved there. But there'll be a focus on just getting more exposure for it, promoting it a lot more, and particularly to younger people, and try and get them involved in the sport so it doesn't dwindle away,
Yeah, because the latest name that comes into my head is Ken Doherty, Alex Higgins, obviously from the north. They would be the only really two in Ireland. Dennis, what's Dennis' surname? Irwine, Dennis Irwine, I think it is. Now, I'd like to go into you come into management, sports management as an events management, and you have a business called Kickoff.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about Kickoff, how it started?
Yeah, so as I said, I worked with the GPA for the guts of 10 years, and one of my main kind of role within the GPA was running events for them. So a lot of them would be with kind of former players, reunion lunches, award nights, like the All-Star Awards, that kind of thing. And loved that, and over the 10 years built a really, really good network within the GAA community in Ireland and with some Irish sports as well. Did a little bit of work with EU Athletes, which was be a player representative body for player unions in Europe, and I just ended up in all these circles with lots of different sports people, but I loved all the event side of things. So during COVID, actually, I ended up getting involved with Longford College and going in and doing my MBA, and after that I decided it's time to, I had met a lot of soccer people, so we'll go on to that in a bit, but I ended up in just lots of different sport and networks. So I knew I wanted to set up an event management company, and the kind of natural area to go towards was sport, because I had contacts in lots of different sports within Ireland. So that's kind of how it started. It has kind of evolved a little bit from what I initially intended it to be, but I still work a lot in sport. Really enjoy it.
How long are you in business with Kickoff?
It will be a year in April.
Oh, yeah, very good.
Yeah.
I see. I've looked at your profile, and you've been to many events. You've organised events. Can you give us the process? So I want to start an event on 2 months' time. How long would it take to organise an event, set it up, get everything running, and what exactly is your job role or job title?
Sure. It depends on who the client is in the first place and what kind of size event as well. If you're in Dublin and you're looking at an event in 2 months' time, you'd find it very hard to find a venue.
Don't get it.
Yeah. So usually
How far in advance?
It again, it depends on the size. So there's one, for example, that I'll run during the summer, and there'll be 500 former players attending it. I have that date booked in since last summer to make sure we have it. And then kind of maybe 3 months out, I'll start writing to the guests that are going to be attending. So this one, for example, is a Legends Lunch, and it's honouring former players of the game. So write out a letter to them. And because the age profile of the players that attend, some of them would have played in the 60s. It's always writing a letter rather than sending an email or whatever, you know. And the day itself is important. So this particular event would be honouring them on the anniversary of when they won the All-Ireland. So it could have been 50 years ago.
Very
and
good.
It's a reunion for all the players to attend together. So it's a big deal, you know. And it's just honouring them for the contribution to the game and celebrating their success, really. So they mightn't have talked about their All-Ireland win in 40 years, or they mightn't have sat around a table in 30 years with the players that they played day in, day out with. So it's a big deal. We write out to them, make sure they know they're being honoured. They can bring along kind of their partners or their son or daughter, and they'll all come along to Croke Park, but it's the weekend of the All-Ireland final, so they get to look out on the pitch ahead of the game and stuff like that. But it would definitely be a long planning process in terms of the venue. First of all, you're looking at a good bit out, and then you're looking at things like AV, food, guest lists, all that kind of
You
stuff.
organise everything from scratch.
Yeah.
Takes a lot of time.
It does.
A lot of people. How many people would be involved in one event?
In organising it?
And organising it? Is that just yourself, or?
It would just be myself in terms of all the logistics, but then obviously I have to get like an MC in, so it might be a Marty Morrissey or a Damien Lawler or one of those guys, and book them in, book in AV people. There's obviously a really good team that work in Croke Park that do all the catering and all that kind of stuff. But in terms of managing all the bits and pieces, that would be me.
Very good. And I see you did have a lot of profiled players, Marty Morrissey, all those on. They've put testimonials on your website.
Yeah, you have to use your contacts.
You definitely have to use your contacts. But you've been involved with a lot of stars, a lot of interesting people. Is there anyone that stands out that you came across?
There's so many you can name. I mean, obviously there's loads in the GAA world, and I've been very, very lucky to work with the likes of Tom Parsons, Paul Flynn, Marty Morrissey, all those guys. In soccer, though, I mean, we can't help but name drop. Jurgen Klinsmann was in my class in college. Karen Carney, Willie Caballero, Cesar Azpilicueta, Brad Habana. Like, I mean, there was a lot of very big names when I went into that class. And just the learning that you get from meeting those different types of people and the different experiences they have was amazing. Yeah, I've been very lucky.
We all go into business thinking, you know, this is going to be the be all and end all. Has anything happened to you that set you back over the year, or how long did it take you to get set up in the first place?
Do you know, I was thinking about it for a while before I went into it. So I kind of had done got my ducks in a row, saved up a bit of money in case it all did go not the right way. I also made sure I kind of had an anchor client before I was starting out, so I could try and really make a good run of it and try and build new contacts. I wouldn't say I've had setbacks, but what I would have is a change in direction of the business. So as I said, I'd met all these different sports people. I was in a few different sports networks and loved events. So my natural thing, I mean, I named the thing Kickoff. So I plan to stay within sport.
I'll come back to that.
I plan to stay within sport, but just by, I don't know, sheer luck or whatever happened, I ended up getting involved with a particular charity, and they asked me to do. I had met them actually through the Gaelic Players Association. They were a previous charity partner for them, and I had run one of these events for them. So when I set up my own business, they said, "Oh, do you want to help us out with a couple of events?" And I found there's just really good collaboration between sports and charities. So if I'm running an event for a charity, for example, you can bring along sports speakers. It brings a different type of person into the room. gets a bit more exposure for them. And that kind of snowballed. And now I've more charity clients than I do at sport, but it actually works really, really well together. So I think what I initially set out to be a sports event management company, now it's kind of a sports and charity event management company, and it's good collaboration, works really well.
I think that's what happens when you do a job right. You have a lot of people that enter a room, they look at the organisation, they'll have this wow factor sometimes when they walk in.
Yeah.
Say, this is really well organised, and then they're actually involved in something themselves. Who do I go to? So it's putting a name in their mind as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's repetition, and then over time you get a circle of clients that keep coming back from something else, or somebody knows somebody. And I think, like, you obviously started really well, and you've done a great job. Even for I was at the Longford College event. It was really well organised as well, and it does stand out. So for down the line, people do have a think. Where can I go? And obviously, you're standing out at the moment.
Well, that's good to hear.
The kick-off name is a fantastic name.
Thanks.
How did that come around?
Oh my God. So I had a few different names before that, and was trying to settle on the right one. And in all honesty, I was actually in the family WhatsApp group, and I was throwing in names and saying, what do you think of this? And what do you think of this? And my brothers and my mum are sending back names and this kind of thing. And my mother actually came up with Kickoff, and then I figured out Kickoff Event Management. The first letter and the last letter are my initials as well. So I liked it, sounded sporty. I knew I wanted it to have a sporty feel. Even my logo looks like a sports shield, like a crest. As I said, we've evolved a little bit since then, but I was really happy with the name, and I was very surprised about getting the website kickoff.ie. But
it stands out, and I know you've brought it in for sport, but that kickoff is anything that starts.
Oh yeah, sure, you kick off an event, like so it worked well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And have you any future plans for it going down the line? Is there any other areas that you want to get into?
I do. So as I said, my clients currently, I'm going to expand a little bit in the sports side of things and keep up working with the charities as well. But eventually I want to run kickoff events, which aren't like on behalf of the client. I have a few ideas, and it's around kind of mixing
These are your own events?
Mm-hmm. And it's about mixing in different sports and kind of using that network that I have. So I'm going to focus on that. I won't give you any more details yet until I bring it out.
It's something I would like to see, that the likes of Roy Keane sitting with Joe Kenny.
This is it.
The likes of that, because everybody has their own stories and the work they put in, and it tends to be soccer players together, GA players together, footballers together. A mix in the room would bring a lot of people in, a lot of interest.
And I just think, I always say collaboration is key. So I find competition only happens at the bottom of the ladder. Everyone at the top is collaborating. So
exactly, they do. Mm-hmm. It's like in the highest level of sport, especially in soccer, the managers talk to each other. They know the system of the other manager. And then you're going playing club. They wouldn't even show you the chart who's playing. They'll tell them last minute. There's no secret. There's no real secrets. I think the more open they are, the more everybody will learn, and the standards will go up.
Absolutely. Sure, even if you're looking at GAA now, a lot of hurling counties are looking at Limerick.
They are.
I mean, they're just amazing to watch, and I don't see
why they've set the standard.
Yeah, 100%.
The last few years, Kilkenny before that, and we don't know how long Limerick will last. Somebody else is going to come. But the work takes years and years to develop to where they've been doing that for years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Same for kickoff. We wish you the best with that. Last thing we'll go through is you started an MBA, or you finished your MBA?
I finished my MBA.
And that's with the college here, Longford College?
Yes, it is, yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about, it's something that I was thinking on doing myself before. And when I think of MBA, I'm thinking, oh my God, look, there's going to be a lot of structured work, a lot of time. Can you tell us a little bit about your MBA?
Yeah, well, I can tell you, if I was able to complete an MBA, you are 100% able to complete one. I didn't even have an undergrad when I went and started. Now, I'd done a couple of years business, as in a higher certificate in business, and then I went straight into the workforce. So I never actually did a 3-year degree or anything like that, or a master's or anything like that. And I went into the industry for a long time. And as I said, when I was working with the GPA, one of my roles was an education partner. So I used to meet with different colleges and bring them on board for scholarships. And I was lucky enough to meet Vinny from Longford College.
Very good.
And Longford came on as a partner with the GPA for scholarships. But I was saying, tell me a bit about your courses. And he was like, well, come here, why not do one? And you'll be able to talk about it. And I was saying, absolutely not. There's
Great
no
sale,
way.
Vinny.
Yeah. I was saying, there's no way. I said, I don't even have my master's and whatever. And he was like, looking at my CV, he's like, you'd be well able to do it. They're so easy to work with. Like the courses are all online, so it makes it so much more accessible. So for someone doing a full-time job and potentially like being involved in different committees or sport or anything like that outside of it, where your time poor, where you don't have to drive in and out of a college every day and you can log on at home when you're trying to get other bits and pieces done, it just makes it really, really accessible. The lecturers in the course, all of them are so helpful. Like there was stuff that I would have struggled with because I hadn't necessarily done a master's before, and it was kind of the academic side of things was a bit outside the scope of what I was able to do.
That's what killed me as well.
They do one-on-one lessons with you, so helpful. Like I ended up actually graduating with a 1-1. I don't know how, but I did. They make it really, really easy. And then the different people that you meet in the course, I mean, apart from the fact that it's like Jurgen Klinsen and Karen Carney, meeting all those different types of people with all the different experience just really led to a fun, collaborative course. And I learned so much off them. I mean, working with someone like Karen Carney on a project, and she has such good insights into the ladies' game and into, diversity, equality and inclusion and what's happening at the minute. And then Jurgen would have a different perspective on things as well. So I just found it fantastic. I'd recommend it to anyone.
I'll come back to what you actually learned in the MBA, but it is something that I've done a master's here with the college as well in advanced sports performance. And I think as you get older and you're deciding to do either a master's or an MBA, it is something that tends to be important to you. And the reason is it's going to help you develop. Yeah. Whereas I think when kids come out of school, they're straight out of school and they're straight into college. They do a degree, straight into a master's degree, and we know the stats. It's pretty much over 70% never use what they've done in school.
I'll give you a laugh. I went to college. The first course I did was International Bar and Food Service Management.
Bar and food?
Bar and Food Service Management. So I was doing chefing and cocktail making. And
did you ever go into it?
No, I worked in bars as much as anyone else did when I was younger, but no, I certainly didn't go into the culinary side of things. So,
yeah, I think that's what sort of for education puts me off. That at a young age they're just thrown straight into it. Yeah. They'd be probably better going out working 5 or 6 years and then maybe 100%. Deciding going in to do a degree, or the fallout would be less, I think. Yeah.
Well, you see, I find now that like when you get kind of maybe in your 30s, 40s. You have a better idea of who you are and what you like and what your strengths are. So like I went back to college, I don't know, I was 34 or 35 to do my MBA. And part of the reason, well, apart from Vinny bullying me into going into it, I knew I wanted to eventually set up my own business. Yeah. So the MBA is basically a Master's of Business Administration. So it teaches you how to run an organisation. So it's kind of various like finance, operations, HR, that kind of thing, which suited where I wanted to go. Now, would I have done one before? Absolutely not. But I don't know what other course I would have done because I hadn't figured out what I wanted to do.
Suit your job.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. But I think, you just know yourself a bit better and you know what kind of course, when you're that bit older and have a bit more work experience behind you, you know what direction you want to go in. Like you can see people now going back and doing sports sciences and stuff like that because they've played in sport and now they might be a teacher, for example, and they go, actually, do you know what, I want to get more involved in the sports side of things. They go back, they do physio training, set up their own gyms, that kind of thing, because they have a better idea of what they want to do. So I'd agree with you. I think maybe deciding later on is better.
Exactly. Like a lot of people have gone through careers like Klinsmann. Why does Klinsmann need to go into an MBA? I'm thinking I'm sure he's not stuck for money or
but
knowledge.
It's the other side of it, though.
It's just learning certain aspects of work or play or whatever. Yeah,
but someone like him might be investing in different businesses and he wants to make sure that he understands how it works and no one's bluffing him. So if he goes and does that, he'll have a good idea himself.
How long did the MBA last?
2 years part-time.
What were the topics each?
Oh God, I can't remember them all now, but HR, finance, Tony will kill me for this now, operations, innovation and change. Oh God, I'm not going to be able to list them all now.
You don't really need it, but which of those topics was most related to what you're doing now that helped you the most?
They were all good in their own right because they covered different aspects of a business that you might not necessarily have thought of, but it's stuff in everyday life. So the innovation and change one really got you thinking about stuff you could do going forward and in the future. Yeah. The HR stuff is kind of like a bit obvious, but it's a nice refresher anyway about how you should be running it. I found operations really, really interesting actually, because it was shown like from the background how businesses actually work and all the different nuts and bolts. So me going out as an event manager, it's not just me turning up and doing an event. There's actually all this stuff behind it that you have to be aware of when you're planning. So I found all of it really interesting. Some I found harder than others. Finance, for example, was not my strong suit, but I have a twin brother who's an accountant, so that helped. Oh, really? But look, I found it, because I had worked in business for so long, a lot of the stuff I knew, it was more writing it in an academic way. Yeah. Because you'd been through a lot of scenarios that might have happened through. But I really enjoyed it anyway. Like the leadership module, for example, was really, really interesting. I'd done a few different leadership courses, but it was different working with people who were coming from a sporting background and talking about their experiences and stuff. So it was all really good. And
do you have any group get-togethers in that MBA?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did. So we met up over in the UK, near Chelsea for one of them. We actually did like a module in one day. Usually it would be like 8 1-hour sessions, so we crammed it all into one day. So that was really good because it was the first time we all met face to face. And then the next time we met up, obviously I'm an event manager, so I said I'd help them organise the graduation, and sure, I put it in Croke Park, of course.
Why not?
So they all came over to Croke Park and we went there. So that was really good. And then I was really lucky to go over to the World Cup with a few of the classmates and catch up after we all graduated.
Who were they? Who were they?
So Brad Habana, he's Brian Habana's brother. He was working over at the World Cup. Karen Carney was working there as well, and Jurgen. But Vinny and Tony came along as well. So.
Very good, very good. You seem to be well switched on, and your progression from, say, GPA into your own business, you're progressing it again. You've done an MBA. What down the line is next for Karen Thorpe?
So I'm surprised I'm where I am now at the minute. I think one of the biggest things for me and for anyone who's gone into that type of thing is just continuously building on your network and seeing where that takes you. As I said, I ended up going, staying in some of the sport and then moving into charities and stuff. And that was all through network. So I'm always open to change or to pivoting and seeing how things go. So I'll see where it takes me next, but looking forward to the future anyway.
Very good. And where can anybody find you? Where, if they were looking to take an event?
Kickoff.ie.
Any socials?
Any socials, yeah. Kickoff Event Management on Instagram and on Twitter.
Very good. Karen Thorpe, thank you very much for the talk.
Thanks for having me.
It was lovely meeting you, and thanks for taking the time.
Cheers. Thank you.